In this video, we'll be talking about mean and standard deviation with interval or grouped data. So on the screen, we have a number of intervals of test scores. So what we see on the screen is that we had 2 students who got between 41 and 50, 7 students who got between 51 and 60, and so forth and so on, up to students who got between 91 and 100, and there were 12 of those. What we want to do here is we want to find the average or mean score as well as the standard deviation of scores. Now, we don't actually know what any of the scores are. We know there are 2 scores between 41 and 50, but we don't actually know what either of those scores are. Maybe both of them are 41s, maybe both are 50s, or maybe they're somewhere in between. So we're going to have to come up with an estimate. And our best estimate is right in the middle, somewhere we call the midpoint. And to find the midpoint, what we're going to do is just average the 2 numbers at the endpoints of the interval. So our first midpoint, we'll take 41 plus 50 and divide by 2. And that's going to give us 45.5. So that'll be the midpoint for our first interval. So what we're going to assume is that both of those scores are a 45.5. And we'll do that for each of our subsequent intervals as well. So 51 plus 60 divided by 2 would be 55.5. 61 plus 70 divided by 2 would be 65.5. And you're probably seeing a pattern. Our next one will be 75.5, and then 85.5, and 95.5. And so those are all of our midpoints. Those are what we're going to use for the scores for each of these intervals. So now we can go to our calculator, and if we hit the Stat button and then Edit, we can type in all of those values. And you'll see that I've already got them typed into our calculator. We want to put the midpoints under L1 and then the frequencies under L2. So now what we want to do is find the mean and standard deviation of all of these scores. So to do that, we'll hit the Stat button. We'll go over to Calc, select one variable Stats, and then at this point, depending on your version of calculator, you may have a menu option here or you may not. We'll go through both methods. So if you have this menu option, we see under List we have L1, which is where our midpoints were. The frequency list, we put that under L2. So what we want to do is we want to hit the second key and then the 2 button for L2. Because that's where we put our data. And then we can go down and select Calculate, and we'll see this right here. All right, so let's go back and look at what it would look like if you don't have that menu option. So what it would look like is it should just say one variable Stats on your screen. And so what we need to do is tell it where the data is. So the midpoints are in L1, so we'll hit the second and then the number 1. And then we'll hit the comma, which is right above the 7 key. And then L2 was where our frequencies were. So second and then L2. And we hit Enter. And so this will give us the same answers, the same screen that we saw when we had the menu option. So on this screen, the numbers that are important to us are first the x with a bar over it. That's our mean, 77.17 if we round to 2 decimal places. And then our standard deviation. And the standard deviation that we'll be using for this class is the sample standard deviation, and that's S sub x. And so for this one, that's 13.00 if we round to 2 decimal places.